say can you see? The time is May 20th, 2015. May 20th, 2015, 8 p.m. That's our time. If that's also your time, you're watching us live, and our phones will be open later. I'm Stephen Durst. This is Oh Say Can You See, the bi-weekly affairs program of the Society for Economic Equality. We are coming to you today to announce the beginning of a very important petition drive to ban fracking in the state of Michigan. I'm going to tell you right now that I am totally opposed to banning, so don't expect an objective, this side, that side view tonight. If you've heard anything about fracking, you've probably heard from the paid spokesman of the oil industry. Well, we are not paid spokesmen, and we are coming to you tonight out of our own personal concerns. I'm Stephen Durst. I have with me three very concerned people whom I would like to introduce one at a time. If you would tell me your interest, how you've come to this point, and what you hope to achieve tonight and in the next 6 months as we begin the process of banning fracking in Michigan. We will be discussing what fracking is and why Michigan must ban it, and also the ballot initiative and how you can get involved to save the fresh water in Michigan. There can hardly be a more important issue for us or anyone. Water is the future. Gas and oil, they're the past. So let's get together and get this done. I'm going to start at the far end. Erin, please introduce yourself. Tell us how you got here, what your interest is, and please then introduce Char to your left, or your right. Your right.
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. I'm a recent graduate, and I came to this subject out of concern for the future of our state, and not only our nation, but something so close as home as the issue of water and natural resources in Michigan. So in belief that there's better alternatives to fracking. So, and here's Char, who has a great amount of information on the subject.
Hi, I'm Char Amberger. I'm a lifelong citizen of Michigan, grown up here enjoying our lakes and rivers and kayaking and canoeing and swimming and fishing and our family hunts, and so we just really enjoy everything Michigan has to offer. I've often thought our Great Lakes are a precious, precious resource. I'm very, very concerned about our inland waters and our Great Lakes. And I've been a member of the Clean Water Action and Michigan Land Use Institute, and I've just now stepped up to be one of the coordinators for the petition drive in Kent County.
Excellent. Thank you, Char. Leesha?
I am Leesha Fagan, and I am a teacher about to retire, and happy for the timing of that, because I will be very involved in this petition drive. I was one of the coordinators back in 2 years ago for the petition drive. This is the third time we're doing it, and we're aware that the timing now is excellent because people's awareness of fracking has grown so much. I grew up in the state of Michigan. I love Michigan. I love its lowlands, its waterways. I love all of the water, and I'm heartbroken to think that we could destroy that. Water is life, and there's no excuse for contaminating the source of life.
We're going to be dealing with some commonly asked questions, but we'll be taking your questions later. Our phone number is 459-4881. It is the 20th of May, 2015. So keep watching. We're first going to discuss what fracking is, but if you can cue up the clip that'll give us some visual ideas of some of the dangers of fracking, and we'll come back and try to fill you in on what it is, why we have to stop it, and what you can do to help us and help yourself and help Michigan. So if that clip is ready, It's ready. Could
I
you
can
roll
often hold a standard kitchen match to my water, and
video?
like I said, it is unpredictable, but the methane randomly travels with the water, and sometimes it will light quite spectacularly. Just like that.
Now, Chesapeake is going to say, well, there's natural occurring methane in the wells already. What do you have? What's your reply to a comment like that?
My reply is that their post-fracking test, their own, the methane tested 0.01 milligrams per liter. And since July of 2010, it has tested as high as 64 milligrams. So obviously something has changed.
And usually you can methane, they say as long as it aerates, it's safe to drink, and usually you can see a little bit of gas just aerating out of there. I don't know whether you can see it or not. Sometimes you have to hold it just right.
Yep.
All right then, we're back now, and this is one of the more dramatic things. Perhaps you've heard this, that tap water is catching fire in areas that have fracking, and to discuss that at greater length is Leesha.
Well, I just wanted to mention that it has finally been proven by science, by courts, that the groundwater in Pennsylvania is contaminated due to fracking. The people who've lived there have known that for quite a long time, like this woman, but finally it has been made completely and unequivocally proven that that is the case. These people's groundwater has been destroyed. Many people's groundwater in Pennsylvania have been destroyed.
Char, let's start with some of these commonly asked questions. Isn't fracking only affecting rural areas? So it's only farmers whose tap water is burning, so we don't have to care, right? That doesn't affect people in the cities.
Well, there's fracking and the actual frack process of cracking the rocks apart, which can then, in the process, methane gases are released and toxins can be released. But also the horizontally fracked well is a combination of sand, water, and many chemicals. Once this water is injected under high volumes and pressure into the earth, much of it comes back up, and it's called flowback water. That is those are toxic substances that need to be stored somewhere, and they can be stored in a well near you. So just because something's not fracked near you doesn't mean that it couldn't end up in a well in your county. Michigan has already received like 2,200 tons of frack waste from Pennsylvania.
And how do we know this?
Which is really sad, is the only reason that we know this is that the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Quality does track the production of their frack waste and where it goes, whereas in the state of Michigan, our DEQ does not track any of that. They don't know where it's going or how much is being produced by our 10 productive wells that we have in Michigan right now.
So the big problem is that our Department of Environmental Quality is actually under law supposed to promote the easy access, and our governor is leasing large parts of state lands to be fracked soon. How many wells are there now in Michigan? 18?
10 producing wells.
10 producing wells?
That's the last information I had.
I see.
But I could be wrong.
so that Michigan hasn't seen the sort of problems that we've seen in Oklahoma, where there have been 200 earthquakes in the first 4 months of this year caused by fracking. Michigan hasn't seen these problems yet, but we will see these problems if present plans go on. Can you show the language for the law as it is right now, and then show what our petition wants to change, and we could continue to talk about what fracking is. Now, Erin, you say you're just learning about this, but what's your impression of what fracking is?
Well, I know that they use a combination of materials and inject it down into drilled vertical and then horizontal pipelines. But the combination of the material, I find it interesting that they're not required to disclose as a form of trade secrets, but under research, scientists have found traces of formaldehyde, acetic acids, and boric acids, among other chemicals.
Well, Leesha, do we have anything to worry from these chemicals? They're down beneath the water table. They use cement to keep those chemicals from getting into the groundwater. Have there been any cases where these chemicals have gotten into the groundwater?
There have been many cases.
Where?
Everywhere where fracking has occurred. It's proven that 5% of casings fail immediately, and then as time goes on, a higher and higher percentage of them fail. The chemicals that are used in them are carcinogenic, endocrine disrupting.
Which means?
Which means your whole hormonal system gets completely messed up. People end up with burning rashes, burning eyes, coughs that will never stop, kids who can't go to school because they can't get their breath.
Would we be in the future be expecting to see birth defects from endocrine disruptors? I know that endocrine disruptors cause a lot of problems to wildlife reproduction.
The endocrine system is tied to the reproductive system, yes.
So, the Republicans are big fans of fracking. Maybe if you've been watching the news, you saw that the legislature in Texas has bans on fracking. How is our initiative going to avoid the fate in Michigan of what has happened in Texas, where the legislature has just said to the town of Denton, banned fracking inside the city limits. The Texas legislature said, no, you can't ban fracking, and a few days afterwards, there was a large explosion of fracking wells in Denton.
The whole town was evacuated.
It's not something that you see.
Well, we're lucky in Michigan because our state constitution provides that we, the people, can create our own laws through this ballot initiative. And we must collect around 250,000 valid or signatures of registered voters. And the process of the initiative is that once we have collected this amount of signatures, the law, as we have proposed it with the changes, our legislature can enact the law as is with no amendments, or if after 40 days it has not done so, then it goes to the people of Michigan for a vote. And then if we win, a majority of people vote for that, the government cannot veto it. There's a slight possibility that the legislature could change it or overturn it, but that requires a supermajority of 3/4 of our state legislature to vote to overturn that. So we're lucky in Michigan. Many other states don't have that.
So we can avoid the fate of the ban on wolf hunting, which after it passed in Michigan was simply overturned by the legislature, who used arcane sleight of hand to make sure that it couldn't go back to a referendum. So in this case, an initiative which we need more signatures for this, and that's we're going to be talking about what you can do. This petition drive is not going to be easy. There will be paid people harassing and doing anything they can to stop this, because let's face it, there's a lot of oil company money to be made, but the risks to Michigan's water are too great for us to just stand by. I wish you would show some pictures of exploding wells from this particular newspaper called the Flowback. It was put out by the Berry County chapter of the anti-fracking movement. You have those up on your stands. No, the one on the next page, flip it over. But yeah, I mean, just show us some of these headlines and pictures from these, and roll the language from the current language of the law and the language that we want to replace it with, and then let's get down to cases concerning the petition drive itself. When does it start? What are some of these trainings you can go to? We're going to have to do this right, because the enemies, our enemies who are the oil companies, will be putting big money and big lawyers and starting their own campaign, the Decline to Sign movement. Just don't sign this petition. You don't want to see this on the ballot, right? Well, that's what they're going to be telling you. They're going to tell you how much money can be made. They're going to tell you how clean what this is. They say it's only gas. Well, now it's petroleum too, but it's releasing a lot of methane, and methane, we know, is one of the worst of the climate changing
The gases.
gases. And before we get to that, though, I would like Erin, who was recently on another one of our shows talking about alternative energy sources, or was it hemp as an alternative energy source, et cetera?
Yes.
So,
yes.
so what are the things you would like to see in your future instead of cheap gas from fracking?
Sure. I would expect to see an investment in a renewable energy source. For example, hemp methanol, which is produced by fermenting hemp stalks.
Fermenting, beautiful.
So this is a crop that can be, brought actual real jobs and real economic value to the state without destroying our natural resources, actually adding nutrition and nitrogen to the soil.
Ooh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Char, we're told that fracking is going to bring a lot of jobs to Michigan. Is that true? And what might it possibly do to our tourist industry, our fishing industry?
So the whole economic picture that the gas and oil companies are going to tell us are so important. Well, mostly when a lot of labor comes from outside the state. And then those people come here and they work. The wells are not very labor intensive. Once you drill a well, it kind of runs itself, except for changing of oil heads and things like that. It's not a very labor intensive, and it's not something that's sustainable. The wells will run dry, and those people will not be employed. Also, many of the workers get sick while they do this work. And if they're in Michigan, will our welfare system be taking care of them? I don't know. But with the bit of money that we get.
What is hydraulic fracturing or fracking?
Hey, what
Since
are you
the
doing?
Industrial Revolution,
What are you doing?
fuels
Hold
like
off on
coal.
that. Hold off. Hold off. Okay, hold off on that. I'm sorry,
That's
Char.
okay. I was just saying that sure, we might take in some income, but what's the loss to the people that own that land that the fracking occurs on? They won't be able to sell it. The pollution too. I mean, recreation and tourism is really our number one industry, and if our streams and lakes get polluted, no one's really going to want to come here and spend their dollar here. And Michiganians, we won't even be able to enjoy our own state. So that
And
would be
if-
a huge impact on our economics of our state.
Well, I can imagine that if we start having the kinds of earthquakes that Oklahoma's experiencing because of fracking, that's going to get pretty expensive on people too. It can't be good for the roads. What about the pipeline situation and the trucking situation with fracking?
Right, well, we're going to truck in hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. So that's going to, the pollution, the wear and tear on our roads, the depleting of our aquifers.
Also,
Traffic, the noise. The
The smell. Can we have some of those
smell.
headlines about the smell in these areas? Or some of the road damage or some of the
Yeah.
farmland damage? Could you show the exploding oil wells? There's some very very dramatic footage from Denton recently that tried to ban fracking, were told they couldn't ban fracking, and then their town blew up.
town blew up.
Footage from Albania, I believe it was, of a whole town being inundated by toxic wastewaters washing right down their streets, mud and noxious effluvia. Oh boy, it could get bad, and the costs of these disasters, who's going to bear those when the frackers have moved on?
Well, also, it's irreparable damage.
Right.
Once that stuff gets in our water, to use kind of a tacky metaphor, you can't strain the pee out of the milk. I mean, once it's in there, it's in there, and that water, it's taken from our cycle. We can't drink it, and we can't water our crops with it, so it's truly lost. And,
It's gone forever.
And,
And anything that it touches, it'll kill.
the industry uses, like one frac well could use easily 20,000 gallons of water. We have one in Michigan that's already used 32,000 gallons of water. So it's just, you can frack, one well can be fracked like 18 times.
That's 30 million gallons of water is, for the horizontal fracking, can be up to 30 million gallons of water.
Right,
For one event.
Yes.
right.
And that water, they say that they can keep down there, but it has leaked back. There's a lake, Josh Fox was talking about it last week on Democracy Now!, a lake in upstate New York that burnt for 3 weeks, a whole
Oh my
lake.
gosh.
And these things are not being reported on because the media is in the pockets of the frackers. Even NPR, only a few days ago did NPR even report the findings from Pennsylvania that, yes, indeed, fracking pollutes water.
I did misspeak myself. I meant to say 21 million gallons,
I see.
not 21,000
Yeah,
gallons of
Yeah.
water.
the numbers
So-
are so big, it's
Right,
Mind-boggling.
it's astounding.
Yeah.
It
it's
really is.
astounding.
Yeah.
And that water can never ever be used again. That all by itself should just make it off the table.
Off the table.
Water-
That's why we must ban fracking in Michigan. Hey, if later they can do it completely safe, then we can revisit it. But
Without water,
obviously,
without-
right now, it's not safe.
And
It
it's
is
not a
safe.
total ban either.
All right.
It's not banning the vertical drilling. That's the safe drilling that we've been using, that you'll hear in the company, oh, for 60 years we've been safely, fracking. Well, yes, these horizontal fracks, and those have been
No,
safe.
vertical.
I'm
The
sorry.
vertical
The-
fracs.
yeah,
Vertical
yeah, right.
fracs.
Watch my hand. That's not what I say. Yeah, those vertical wells have been safe, and we've been using those for 60 years, and it's only in the last 15 years that this hydraulic fracturing has come to be.
So that's the point. This initiative is only to ban the horizontal fracks. The vertical frac can use 50,000 gallons of water, and I don't like it, but that's not 30 million gallons of water, and that vertical fracking does not seem to create the same earthquake risks or the same amount of contamination risks. But in the big picture, we need to start thinking about petroleum as the past and these alternative energies as the future, for the benefit of our economy in the long run, for our environment.
You know,
Well, another thing about fracking that bothers me is that it does indeed bring down the cost of gas, but then people just spend more on gas. The real cost of using cars, using petroleum, is really astronomical, but because of the subsidies to oil companies, Americans continue to get it cheaply. This allows them to, the oil companies, to make profits off of it because the real costs are hidden. They tax you, they're taxing you for the military, and they're using the military to keep the oil flowing. Now, the military uses a lot of oil and buys the oil from the oil companies. The real cost of the petroleum economy has been, to the U.S., has been calculated to be over $3 trillion a year. A lot of your taxes, when you're worried about food stamps, that isn't anything compared to the subsidies you're giving to the oil companies. Boy, oh boy, I'm talking more than I intended to.
I wanted to make a point, and that is that much of our frack gas actually is going to Asia and Europe, where
Yes.
because it's, we get a subsidized price, they don't, and so the companies can earn a lot, quite a
More.
bit more over
Yeah.
there, and so
I
they
see.
frack it here, ruin our environment, leave us with the frack waste, and then we don't even get the benefit of the use of it, and it goes to Asia and Europe. So.
We're going to open the phones in a minute. The number is 459-4881. Before we do that, can we talk about the training for petitioners, where these are going to be this coming Saturday, May 23rd. Can you get a shot of this? Not this one, but the other one, over by Char, May 23rd, 1 and 3 p.m. at the March Against Monsanto in Grand Rapids, on Nabawan Park. And everybody knows where that is, right? It's down on the river on the north side of town. You'll be on the east side of the river, right? Right, east side of the river.
I think the west side
West
of the
side
river,
of the
where
river.
where the rolling hills
Oh,
are.
really?
By the museum.
Yeah.
Oh, by the museum. Okay, by the museum.
Yes, so we'll be there, and we'll have a table and where you can come and meet us. Sign up also to circulate petitions yourself. We'll do some impromptu training there at 1:30 and 3 o'clock. And then also we're going to have another training on the following Thursday, May 28th, at Kava House in Grand Rapids at 7 p.m. If you want to participate, you can go to our, just show up is great. But we'll have more information about further trainings on our website, letsbanfracking.org.
Can we see that? Let's ban
our-
fracking. Let's see the website. Would you scroll the most asked questions and play the video that'll give us an overview of the fracking and the problems with fracking, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in. It's May 20th, 2015. This is Oh Say Can You See, the Society of Economic Equality's bi-weekly issues program. We are here today to launch the petition drive for an initiative to ban fracking in Michigan. So I'm ready if you can roll that. Hey John, can you roll that? He's rolling it. In the meantime, anybody got some points?
How long will the petitions be running?
Well, that's a good question. We are starting on this Friday, on May 22nd, and we'll be collecting through November 11th, 2015.
How many signatures do we need?
We're going for about 360,000.
All right. We'll do a whole
What is
360.
hydraulic fracturing, or fracking? Since the Industrial Revolution, our energy consumption has risen unceasingly. The majority of this energy consumption is supplied by fossil fuels like coal or natural gas. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about a controversial method of extracting natural gas, hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. Put simply, fracking describes the recovery of natural gas from deep layers inside the earth. In this method, porous rock is fractured by the use of water, sand, and chemicals in order to release the enclosed natural gas. The technique of fracking has been known since the 1940s. Nonetheless, only in the last 10 years has there been quite a fracking boom, especially in the USA. This is because most conventional natural gas sources in America and on the European continent have been exhausted. Thus, prices for natural gas and other fuels are rising steadily. Significantly more complicated and expensive methods, like fracking, have now become attractive and profitable. In the meantime, fracking has already been used more than 1 million times in the USA alone. Over 60% of all new oil and gas wells are drilled by using fracking. Now, let's take a look at how fracking actually works. First, a shaft is drilled several hundred meters into the earth. From there, a horizontal hole is drilled into the gas-bearing layer of rock. Next, the fracking fluid is pumped into the ground using high-performance pumps. On average, the fluid consists of 8 million liters of water, which amounts to about the daily consumption of 65,000 people, plus several thousand tons of sand and about 200,000 liters of chemicals. The mixture penetrates into the rock layer and produces innumerable tiny cracks. The sand prevents the cracks from closing again. The chemicals perform various tasks. Among other things, they compress the water, kill off bacteria, or dissolve minerals. Next, the majority of the fracking fluid is pumped out again. And now the natural gas can be recovered. As soon as the gas source is exhausted, the drill hole is sealed. As a rule, the fracking fluid is pumped back into deep underground layers and sealed in there. However, fracking is also associated with several considerable risks. The primary risk consists in the contamination of drinking water sources. Fracking not only consumes large quantities of fresh water, but in addition the water is subsequently contaminated and is highly toxic. The contamination is so severe that the water cannot even be cleaned in a treatment plant. Even though the danger is known and theoretically could be managed, in the USA already sources have been contaminated due to negligence. No one yet knows how the enclosed water will behave in the future, since there have not yet been any long-term studies on the subject. The chemicals used in fracking vary from the hazardous to the extremely toxic and carcinogenic, such as benzol or formic acid. The companies using fracking say nothing about the precise composition of the chemical mixture. But it is known that there are about 700 different chemical agents which can be used in the process. Another risk is the release of greenhouse gases. The natural gas recovered by fracking consists largely of methane, a greenhouse gas which is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Natural gas is less harmful than coal when burned, but nonetheless, the negative effects of fracking on the climate balance are overall greater. Firstly, the fracking process requires a very large consumption of energy. Secondly, the drill holes are quickly exhausted, and it's necessary to drill fracking holes much more frequently than for classical natural gas wells. In addition, about 3% of the recovered gas is lost in the extraction and escapes into the atmosphere. So how is fracking and its expected benefits to be assessed when the advantages are balanced against the disadvantages? When properly employed, this technique offers one way in the short to medium term to meet our demand for lower cost energy. But the long-term consequences of fracking are unforeseeable, and the risk to our drinking water thus should not be underestimated.
Well, there you have it. the risk to our drinking water cannot be underestimated. There have been no long-term studies, but in the past 2 years since the last attempt to do something about this in Michigan, much evidence has been gathered, and it's the picture is not good.
Stephen, I wanted to, I was thinking about those questions that were going across the bottom screen. How bad can it get in Michigan? There's one Canadian company that is seeking permits and plans to put like 500 wells in, and along with a network of pipelines connecting and storing and processing. That sounds like a whole lot more than the 18 that we may have right now. Also, the frack waste that has been coming from out of state has been going to 2 landfills in Detroit and 1 in Belleville, and so we are taking frack waste from other states, and those I believe are going to be like hubs for the industry. So we could be getting frack from Ohio and many other places, because these 2 landfills are designated to take some of the waste, even the radioactive waste. So I just don't think we want all that frack waste coming to our communities. And there's no wells. I don't think there's wells near there, just close to the Toledo border there's some, but so that's a case of, you don't have a well in your backyard, but you have frack waste in your backyard.
Mm-hmm. And it's true on each site that there is a well. They also have a pool where they put the waste water. Is there a risk for evaporation in those pools?
I believe in Michigan we cannot have open pits of waste, but the fact is that it escapes all the time. And water, we all know the nature of water. Water doesn't stay where you put it, and this water is treated to be more corrosive, to be more fluid also, to have less friction. And so it's just designed to move through rock. That's the nature of the fracking fluid. The stuff that used to be beautiful, clear, sparkling water that we could swim in or drink becomes this toxic waste that we can't put it anywhere safely. There's no safe place to put it.
No,
and it will connect with groundwater. It will connect with rivers and streams and underwater passages, and it will connect with the Great Lakes. I mean, it's a matter of time. It's simply unconscionable to allow it to be here.
Right. The petroleum companies tell us it's okay because we can keep this water contained in rock, but they've already treated the water to dissolve rock, crack rock, and then they're going to say, oh, but now it's safe. Well, it's still got the same chemicals in it they were using to crack rock and inject into veins before. It's going to continue to do so. Like the article said, there are no long-term studies. So are we really willing to have one Canadian company make 500 wells in Michigan? We could kill the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
In Vermont, they've already decided that they don't want fracking in their state. They've already banned it. And
so other states have banned fracking.
New York has a moratorium because the area that they proposed to frack provides drinking water to the New York metropolitan area. Yeah. That's, so many people drink that water that they decided that it wasn't worth the risk.
Well, it's not worth the risk. It's definitely not worth the risk. So let's talk about what we can do, what people could do to help. We're going to take your phone calls. Is our phone number up there? Yes, it is. 459-4881. We'll be taking your calls tonight, so call in with your concerns, and we'll continue this conversation right now.
I would
Leesha?
I would like to speak to what it's like to be a petitioner, what it's like to carry a clipboard and have that petition on the clipboard and talk to people. I can't say it's easy, but I can say that it's invigorating. I can say that it feels really good to be fighting for the well-being of my state and my family and my friends and everybody I know and everybody I don't know who uses the Great Lakes and the water here. And you can educate people, you can get those signatures. Oh, and a wonderful thing, a good thing for you to talk about, Char, would be the website and how there are events posted there. So what's fun is that you join up with other people. You go to in the fall, Art Prize, but you go to the Water Festival, you go to all these festivals, have a great time, get signatures. It's exciting, it's invigorating, and it matters. What you're doing really matters.
Our campaign, first and foremost, needs more people to circulate petitions. And really, the best way to do that is to go to our website and sign up as a volunteer. And then I will personally contact you if you're in our county. We're really looking for people outside the Grand Rapids area, Caledonia, Rockford. I could really use some people, and I'd love to do some trainings in those areas. Also at our website is links to lots of information about the health risks, links to things that are going on in other states. We are going to have, as Leesha said, an events page where once you're a volunteer, you can see what an event is. We'll have time slots. You can sign up and meet other people there. So primarily, we need those petitioners to help us. We need you to sign those petitions and to talk to your friends about signing those petitions. If you want to donate to our cause, we'd be very happy to have, it's a very grassroots kind of an organization. You can donate on our website, and you can, we also have a Facebook page that you can like and to follow our campaign. And
what's the name of that Facebook page if they want to like it? Let's Ban Fracking.
Let's Ban Fracking, yep.
We could see that website too.
And also, if you want to invite, I'd be happy to come and speak to your social justice committee at your church or to any other organization. I'd be happy to come to your town and do a training for petitioners. So contact us,
Char.
please.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of fun doing this. We're going to be going in groups to festivals. We'll be busking, this is not going to be all gloom and doom. It's got to be fun. So get involved. We have a caller, Boz. It looks like Boz has given up on us. We took too long for him. But if you want to call, we're 459-48. Hello, Boz. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello. This is not a good connection. Can you call back? We did not have a good connection there.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Better.
A little bit better. Okay, Boz.
Okay. A few minutes ago, Char said something about a Canadian company in relationship to 500 wells.
Yeah.
Are those planned wells or proposed wells, and is that in Michigan or in Canada?
Those are proposed wells in Michigan, Boz.
Do you know the specific name of that company?
I believe it's Encan, E-N-C-A-N.
Encana.
Encana.
Well, that's quite concerning considering the track record recently of Canadian energy companies in relationship to Michigan.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that information. That is quite disturbing. And there are only 18 total fracking wells operating in Michigan currently.
That's what I heard. Char said she thinks there are 10, but they're prepared. They're prepared to do a lot more. Hello?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Is Encana the same company that polluted the Kalamazoo River recently?
I believe it is.
The ones, there was a pipeline that broke.
It's not Enron, I don't know.
Oh, and
I'm not fresh on that either.
so
but-
this will mean more pipelines, right? Not just more
Right,
trucking. They'll
right.
be trucking water in, but piping gas out. So we're going to have a lot more trouble with what do they call it? Eminent domain. Eminent domain will be having the, or eminent domain, the state's going to be coming going, all right, you got to move your house. You got to move. We're going to put this pipeline through here.
Or the gas companies will be offering you a chunk of change for the rights to frack on your land.
Yeah.
And again, think twice about that because you might not be able to sell it if you have a frack well on your property.
You probably won't. Property values plummet near fracking, partly because it's miserable to be near a fracking well. You've got these brilliant lights all 24 hours a day. You've got noise, you've got smells, you've got polluted groundwater. Michigan has more private water. People in Michigan use more privately drilled wells for their own use than any other state, and yet Michigan's fracking wells use more water than fracking wells in any other state.
Stephen, were we going to take a look at that ballot language at some point?
Yeah, so
do
they ran it
that.
before. Can you run the ballot language again, Gerard? Use one of the headlines from the newspaper, the Flow Black, so that we can
Here we
read
go.
those words better.
Okay.
Can we have a neutral? Use for a background. Use some of the newspaper. The words are not easy to read this way.
I guess maybe
Can you do that?
it's not showing up well. I guess what I'd like to point out is that the current law requires that the DEQ to foster conditions to maximize oil and gas production. Therefore, they're never going to say no to a permit. This law was drafted in the 1930s, way before we had horizontal fracking. And so it was thought that it would be good for us to exploit that to the fullest extent, and that is the mission of the DEQ. And our ballot language replaces that with charging them with banning fracking and the storage of all the frack waste, and then also being in charge of our air, land, and water quality, protecting that and protecting our health, which is not in that law.
So this ballot initiative will take the DEQ from being a open friend to the petroleum industry and make it a effective
A watchdog,
regulator
right.
of an industry that is poisoning our water.
Yeah, we have
And,
no
and
regulation. Yeah, there's no
and why should
regulation.
you be worried? It's like, well, I'm not going to let them frack on my land. Well, what if the farmer across the road fracks on his land and your tap water catches on fire? Hey, what if your stove's next to your sink? You're going to blow yourselves up. These things are blowing up. Look up Denton, Texas, and see if you can find any information on it. I had some that I'd posted on Facebook. When I went back to look for it, it was gone. In fact, most of the videos that I had reposted on Facebook about fracking a few days later were no longer to be found on my timeline.
Probably go to our website would be a better
Yeah.
source for that. I forgot to mention a statistic here that according to the EPA, we have 560 wells that can be used for frack waste right now. The DEQ says there are 888 wells available for disposal, and any of Michigan's old gas and oil wells could be used for the disposal of fracked waste by turning them into injection wells. So again, another one of those staggering numbers that really makes you pause.
They say that it'll stay there, but these frackings have caused a lot of earthquakes. So
Right.
even if they do find a nice old well to inject this into, can earthquakes open the land and squeeze it right back up? I mean, these fracked levels of shale, aren't they going to press down on this and squirt it right back up those? Isn't that what happened to Albania when the town was flooded with toxic water from old injection wells, and the fracking chemicals, the flowback, it's kind of hard to stop it. Once it starts pouring through your living room and burning your feet off, it's going to be worse than The Blob. It's going to be a horror movie. So yeah, the flowback. Anyway, let's talk about the march against Monsanto. Let's talk about our chances. How have things changed since you worked on this, the ballot initiative or the ballot proposal 2 years ago?
Oh,
Leesha?
I think the awareness is 100-fold what it was 2 years ago. I think that people have seen and heard enough, even on mainstream media. Mainstream media would like to avoid covering this, but some of the news is just too big to avoid. They've had to cover it, like you say, like Denton. But the film Gasland, if you haven't seen that yet, a lot of people have seen it. It's really powerful. It's a guy who researched all the wells in Pennsylvania and what's happened with people there, that whole landscape, how it's been ruined. Gasland 2 goes further and talks about how politically it has been that this could happen. Who's in whose pockets, who's getting their pockets lined, and why, therefore, they're allowing this catastrophic industry to just run roughshod over our landscape, over our towns, over our national parks. They want to frack in our national parks, for heaven's sakes, too. So I think it's a great deal different. I think there's a lot more awareness.
We just had a group to do a poll for us, and as of right now, if people they polled 865 people, not a large poll, but Michiganians, a majority would vote for a ban against frack.
Wonderful.
And most people were very, very concerned about the storage of the frack waste, and especially the waste coming from other states.
So they know about it.
Right.
Yeah, because people should be concerned about that. So it's great that people know to be. It's death-dealing stuff, and turns beautiful water that we love into poison. It's a horrible, horrible process.
There's also, brine the water too, and it makes it super salty.
Yes.
And that's a problem too.
That's a huge problem. I mean,
can't put it
everyone
on
knows about the
fields.
Dead Sea. Everyone knows about the Great Salt Lake or the Salton Sea, bodies of water that are dead. Imagine the Great Lakes dead.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a total taking. We're not shutting down the entire industry. It's just this horizontal fracking. I guess I'd like to point out that it is a nonpartisan campaign.
Absolutely.
And I think we'll get support from Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I think everybody values our natural resources.
I know we need to be concerned also about agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because it's, as with the ban on fracking in Denton, Texas, the state in Texas bans on fracking. Trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership would allow corporations to strike down local and national laws that they say prevent them from making any profit. And so they will say this is illegal for Michigan to ban fracking. So we've got to be aware of these larger things. The March on Monsanto, the general poisoning of our environment. We are going to focus on this one issue, and we have focused on it tonight, but we don't want people to forget that the issue is huge, and it's a multi-level assault on our sovereignty, on democracy, on the environment, and on the future of life on Earth. We have 3 minutes to go, so we're not going to be able to take any more callers tonight. I'd just like to let you all have your final say here. But
I guess I'd just like to say, what is Michigan without our beautiful water? I mean, I can't even imagine. There would be no point in being here, you know, if we couldn't, if we didn't have beautiful water to swim in, to kayak on, to recreate in, to drink out of our faucets. It's life is water. Water makes life possible. To take that water and turn it into poison it's beyond my comprehension that we would allow that.
we have 1 minute to go, and we haven't even talked about the blowback we can expect. The big money that's going to go
Yes.
into campaigns to squash us, to invalidate signatures, to incite perhaps violence, harass us, discredit us in every way. So it's going to be fun, but it's also going to be difficult, folks. Anything to say about what we can expect in those lines?
I really don't know what to expect, although I do think the Chamber of Commerce has a decline to sign campaign up their sleeve, and I'm already seeing gas and oil commercials about the safety of fracking. And I'd just like to say, this is our state. Let's take control. We have, our Constitution gives us the right to do this, and let's do it.
All right, well, Erin, you're the future, so we'll give you the last word. What do you want to see? What do you want Michigan to look like in 20 years?
I want to see it growing and green and healthy, with the oxygen plentiful, and healthy citizens.
And with a healthy democracy?
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
This is a part of a larger issue. Last time we talked about the candidacy of Bernie Sanders. Get involved in this petition drive, but don't focus on any one thing, because they're sneaking behind our backs to do all sorts of damage, all for the almighty dollar. So how do you think of Harriet Tubman on the money? I think we should change the motto too. It's something like money
did
isn't
Harriet
everything.
Tubman win the $20 bill
I think
spot?
she won the popular vote. I don't know if there's actually going to be a change.
Oh, really? No, we were talking about what woman to put on the $20 bill.
That would be an excellent choice. Yeah.
You see this cartoon in the flowback? Hydraulic fracking explained. Basically, we inject chemicals into the ground, corrupting the water supply while extracting natural gas. And I said, good show.